I reckon I'm as ready as I'm ever gonna be.
Rise and shine, sleepyhead. It's a brand new day.
Good thing that I don't have dangerous brain powers, or right now you'd be in 1,000 little pieces.
Good morning. Now prepare to experience the most outrageous man on radio.
It's an excursion into the odd and into the very, very different.
Okay.
Just sit right back and you'll hear a tale.
This is insane.
Quality, quantity, and variety.
ROCKFLUX.
Let's get this show on the road.
Thank you. Thank you. Almost messed my cue there, but I made it. It was a miserable night of sleeping in these parts, and if you're anywhere in the, I understand there were a lot of serious storms down south. I'm in the mid-Atlantic states, so let's kind of jump right into this thing.
The Weather Watch forecast.
Well, it's not so much with the forecast, but let's recap a little bit. Man, I woke up, went to bed early as usual because I usually get up at 3 or 4 in the morning. So, and I woke up first time 9 o'clock to the sound of raindrops above my head. Those raindrops keep falling on my head. And so I had to go up into the attic in my PJs, not really PJs, and used the old siphon to siphon water out of the various buckets, collecting water that was leaking through the roof. And as usual, it wasn't so much, I mean, they were getting water in them and collecting water, but these towels that I had put, there's still some reason that the floor beneath them, it's very odd, is getting wet, though it's a floor that I put there. It's very strange. So I wringed out a few towels, replaced a few Dollar Tree towels. It's 48 degrees and raining outside, and the forecast for the rest of this morning and probably the rest of the show is rain, 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 rain. Today is Hump Day, Wednesday, the 6th of April, and the time is 5:05 a.m. Like I said, I'm in the mid-Atlantic states, so it seems like it's raining all over the world. And I did watch a little bit of that Ryan Hall Y'all guy, weather guy, on YouTube yesterday, and he was having a live thing. There was a bunch of storms, tornado watches down south here. So I imagine this whole rain and storms has just been heading, eastward the whole time. You can see the coal trucks are already at full swing now. We're at that time of day. Today is a 100% chance of rain. It's going to get up into the 50s, the overnight 46. Tomorrow is a 90% chance of rain, and it's going to be the same, get a little colder at night. Friday, 40% chance of thunderstorms. Then it gets down to 36. Here's where it gets crazy. So,
Weekend weather.
it's looking like, so Friday night, since we hit 36, it's a frost. Saturday, 50% of thunderstorms, high only of 41, overnight below freezing, Fahrenheit and Celsius, of course. And Sunday, snow, 50% chance of snow, high of only 39, and a low of 28. Anyway, that's your
Weekend weather.
and of course in the aggregate.
The Weather Watch forecast.
So yeah, it's chill. It's like it's cold in here, even though the heat's on. It's 48 degrees outside, but that's one of those weird temperatures where the heat of the house itself, it's not cold enough outside to take the existing heat inside to turn the heat on, you see. And so it's like kind of cold. I'm like kind of chilled through the bones. It's a good thing I'm drinking hot coffee. I had some leftover dark chocolate, like 100% cacao, and the other was like, well, yeah, it was like 100% and 60%. I had two scraps of this in a little container. And I put that in, and I put a little bit of vanilla extract, like pure vanilla extract in. Just to experiment, to try to make myself some kind of like a semi-healthy, drink. And if you look at on the screen over there, you'll see what looks like it is pretty obviously, you can see a cutting board. That's my kitchen sink. It's an old country kitchen. And just beyond the cutting board is a little mini coffee pot, like a $9.95 Walmart coffee pot. Beyond that, a dartboard, a table, and that window is the window that leads to the outdoors. And then, of course, on the left, you can see is a bar. You see, that's my bar. Some people have like their kitchens in a set up in a certain way where it's like they've got as those coal trucks set up with what this island they call it. Well, instead I built a bar, a wooden bar, finished off the top. You could see it reflecting. And that door goes to a back, you could call it a porch, but it's not really a porch. It's more of a walkway that leads to some stairs that go down towards that window out to the backyard. And to the left, you could see it's lit there. That the light in there are grow lights. And that's where I have catnip. And currently growing some, I guess, tomato plants and peppers in there. I don't know why I'm doing that at this early. Wishful thinking. I mean, they're just seedlings coming up, but they're alive and it's warm in there. And I guess I'm wasting my electricity in a month when I really should be saving money. Anyway, so the title of the show, and the reason I chose to put that picture up, I just took that picture this morning, by the way, is The Simple Life. Is it possible? And I put a chat in, since I usually don't get anyone chatting. Sometimes I do. I put, in a world of ever-increasing complexity with an underpinning of socioeconomic geopolitics, is it possible to be happy, free, and have a good quality of life without all of the external or existential noise? The existential is the key. All this existential noise, that's going on. The media machine, right? So that brings us to the show, right? And here we are, as they say. So
you're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
And when you see me looking down, I'm usually either pouring coffee, and if you see my head dip down, as I've said before, it's not being rude. Sometimes I will pick the coffee cup up, bring it all the way back here, and you can see I'm using my camping morning show mug. But sometimes I just take a dip down like that. And when you see me do that, I'm just taking a sip of coffee. Look at that truck. Cold trucks both direction, man. Because they know this weekend they're going to need a lot of coal to fire those 2 electric plants. It's crazy. Here comes another one. Look at them. Those things will never run on batteries. I mean, and if they ever did, they'd have to be charged like every mile or something. Hi, Scarlett. I don't know. I got a weird voice today. It's like I'd say I've been coming down with something, but just because I had such a bad night of sleep and it's cold and I just have this nasally thing, but it's not necessarily feel like a cold, but it's just kind of. I feel like a prisoner in my house because it's like rain, total rain outside. Can't do anything outside. And I still, and I can't deal with this rodent. I really want to deal with this rodent problem. And this weekend, everything's going to be icy and frozen. I mean, it's going to rain for 3 or 4 days and then like get down below freezing, which means it's going to be a skating rink out there and the grass and stuff. So all I could do is hope that the 10-day forecast next week, there's going to be 2 decent days when I could go out, and I have a lot of work. I really have to plant next week my cool weather crops. We're talking about mid-April. They should have been in the ground now because all this April showers, type of thing. Because with cool weather crops, just to get on this tangent and I'll get off it, it doesn't really matter that you would have a frost or it would get down cold, because what happens is the seeds in the soil, they just don't do anything. They just remain like dormant. It's like what they call volunteer seeds. When you notice, if you're a gardener, or if you have a garden, or even if you're just somebody who has a backyard, you'll notice a flower or a plant or something come up, and you go, hey, I didn't plant that, but I did last year or a couple of years ago. And it's just seeds just in the ground, and they just, they germinate themselves, under the proper conditions. When the weather gets right, the soil reaches a certain temperature, there's enough, fertilizer that they need as far as their minerals or whatever, and they pop up. But it's the same as if you plant seeds. So things like lettuces, which you want to have in May and June, because once you hit July and it gets hot, those things, they die out. They go to seed. They call it bolting. Though things like Swiss chard sometimes will survive. And I did have a red lettuce last year that seemed to, I don't know why, but it seemed to last a little bit longer. But that, needless to say, I hope we get 2 days next week that are like sunny and at least in the high 50s, so I can go out there and deal with it. And come hook or crook, I'm going to have to not pay some bills because the bank screwed me over yesterday. I just checked it. Usually after midnight, they make any corrections that need to be, and they didn't. So I'm just going to have to not pay my water sewer bill and something else and just go get a month behind on a couple of bills. Because I have to buy soil. I have to buy concrete to deal with this rodent. I got to plug up these rodent holes. I need the 2 days of warmer weather. Doesn't have to be hot, but above 50, where it's above 50 overnight, because I'm going to take wood from the attic that I've had to open up the walls to patch these things. And somebody who's new about this is a learning, this program, we teach you all sorts of things. Let's just take a look here. Did I ever show you this thing before I get rid of this? Did I show you that yesterday? I don't know if I did or not. This is like the healthiest thing you can eat. I think I might have shown this yesterday or the day before, but I'm just going to go before I get rid of it. That's a kosher dill pickle. That's avocado, spread on there with some kale, fresh garlic, a radish that I grew in my outside greenhouse this time of year, believe it or not. And what I didn't put on there, because you wouldn't be able to see the things you can see, is I've added some German style sauerkraut, right? The real stuff. Turmeric and black pepper, and some rosemary, and then basically dripped on some extra virgin olive oil on top of it. And and by the way, those wraps, they're just small wraps. It's not that big. So 2 of those is like the equivalent of one, tortilla. They're small. They are made of they are cauliflower instead of flour based. They're cauliflower. And I'll tell you, it was absolutely delicious. But if you think about the health benefits from something like that, it's amazing. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff I eat. That's how and I tell you, it keeps you going. But anyway, and I right in that kitchen on that, ate it at that bar to the left and chopped up the veggies on that wooden cutting board on that old country sink I have. Yeah, there's a microwave there. I hardly ever use it. And yes, that does look like a roll of toilet paper. I use that. I go to the Dollar Tree and I usually get like a 4-pack of the cheapest toilet paper they have for like, it used to be $1, now it's $1.25. 4 rolls for $1.25. And there's like 1,000 sheets or something there. And I use that instead of tissues. Because you'll pay $1 for a box of tissues, right? And how many do you get in a box, right? And this way you get like 4,000, this way you get a ton, the thing lasts you a couple, and I put one upstairs, downstairs, one in the, I have two bathrooms. And I don't, I get regular TP, but this is what I use to, blow your nose. Or just wipe something, clean something up. Shouldn't have said the word wipe. All right, I was going to show you the attic because this isn't a fresh picture, but this is an older picture. In fact, just deciding what picture to use is hard to describe. But I'll try to get something that gives you the full Monty idea here. Let's see. Here's an interesting picture. I'm just going to show this because I was looking for something. This is a different picture of my backyard. This is more current than the one I usually show. But the key about this one is if you look at it closely, look at the vines on the bottom that have completely covered my porch, and the vines how the fence. In other words, there's a path in the center that goes to that garage. That's my house is in the back here, the thing that's covered with vines, and that garage, detached garage, and you could see my mini greenhouse, and that's where I hang out in the sun. And it was really a really cool place. This is this is last summer. I forgot I had this picture. And it's like, full grown it's like living in this world. And I had no rodents, no nothing, no problems, a nice harvest, all that kind of stuff. Gave food away, laid in the sun. That big tree that I had to chop down because the neighbor was offended because part of the top of it was overtopped onto her side. And those little things you can see along the path are just baby little birds. I took this from my attic, this picture. Isn't that neat? I pay $200 a month mortgage, taxes, and insurance, and I have this like ridiculously big yard. But anyway, these vines that I let grow wild up the house, they've kind of caused some damage on the drain spout. Not spout, but the gutter that, on the porch roof that we were looking at, which will, when I get rid of this photo here, when you look out that window by the girl with the cigarette, I don't know if you can make her out or not. Well, let me enlarge this a sec for you people with small monitors. It's a little bit blurry. I don't know why. It should have been clear. I took it with my old iPhone, but sometimes that camera is just crappy. But in any event, out that window is that would be the view. Not that view, but that's, But what I wanted to do is show you the attic in general, what I'm talking about. How I did this. Like what I have to deal with. This was an earlier version of the before and after effect. And see what we're dealing with here is if you look closely, this is hard to understand, but you can see some you see some green boards in the center. And you can tell that they're individual, like tongue and groove type of boards. And I had to remove those to expose, literally, that's the roof. And I was having leaks, and I couldn't get on the roof because it's 4 stories up. And so you can see here a combination of, I tried putting like a tar type of roof coating sealant on there. That didn't work. And then I started to put on this other sealant. That didn't really work either. And then I ended up using I just give you an idea. Let me get this up. And then I did this. And you see those little, you can actually see the nails of the shingles that were nailed on. And some of those shingles no longer exist. It's just the nails. And after this photo was even taken, like I say, that is the actual wall. That's the roof. See, the roof was made with planks. And the problem with a 100-some-year-old house, it's not like they had these 4x8, particle board or plywood boards on there. They had planks, and wood shrinks over the years. And the more boards, the more gaps, potential for gaps. So you can see I have everything from foam to caulking between those boards if you look really closely. Then I covered the entire thing in this particular area toward the front of the house with a can of some kind of white roof sealant, right? Rubberized roof sealant. I found it in one of the box stores. I cannot find it again, and I forget the name, and I'd thrown out the can. But anyway, this thing has not, knock on wood, has not leaked. But I have 2 other spots like this upstairs. And the problem is, one of them is above my bed, and that one, no matter what I've done, it still leaks. And I have one across the other side, which leaks as well. And I have a ton of little like these litter boxes, like imagine trays of if you don't know what a cat litter box is, a rectangular tray that's about 3 to 4 inches high to capture the water. So I don't have to go up there every hour. But last night I had to go up a couple of times. And I have this siphon pump. It's takes 2 batteries, and you put one end in the tray and another in a bucket, turn it on, and it siphons it out. People use those things to fill put gasoline in their tank, or in their like lawnmowers or things like that. People that don't want to use a funnel or make a mess, or putting its stuff in sometimes in like a skid steer or someplace where it's hard to reach the gas tank and you don't want to get gas all over the place. Anyway, that's my life. That was last night, so it's miserable. So my nose, I feel like I'm catching a cold. But at least it's at that point where, when I'm just going to have to eat it away. And you say, what? Like most people would be popping vitamin C or something like that. And I didn't even have a good breakfast. All I have in the house right now, I'm flat broke. All I had in the house was like some pickled eggs I've made. So for breakfast was pickled eggs and a couple of beets. And this coffee. And I had, so I'm going to have this fairly big early, brunch, I guess you're going to call it. Brunch at, 9 o'clock or something like that, depending on how this show goes and how long it is and whatnot. I also think this thing is still kind of semi-messed up from yesterday. When the cat was here. So far, so good. He seems to be doing all right for those interested. And down below where it says with Tony Caravan, that's a bar stool, that little black thing there. What's the movement behind it is my my shoulder or whatever. But I'm trying to like make my shoulder finish the bar stool off so you get the idea. See? And that's where I sit. And right currently I have a bunch of stuff up there. And those little various vitamins are like vitamin D. I've been taking this Shanka Piedra, which is like good for the colon. Milk thistle, good for the liver, because I'm fighting. I don't want to have a gallbladder operation. And I've had two different surgeons say, do it. And I don't want to, because I've already had too many operations. Okay, that's enough.
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
Yeah.
Hey, it's me. How you doing, man?
It's about 25 minutes into the show, and I don't know if I just bored the crap out of people, but it is the Tony Caravan Live morning vlog, morning show. I was thinking today, I have all this branding, the morning show, but, and they have that morning show, sometimes I've thought about it, I think on Apple Plus, with Jennifer Aniston and stuff. But I mean, everything's the morning show. And I did this before that. It's not like I copied them or they copied me. It's just the idea is it's the morning show, right? It's like a time-proven thing. I think they've been doing morning shows since, media, radio, and television began. I mean, you could call it I have morning vlog on there. This isn't that bad. Problem is it's going down pretty quick. But I'm hoping not that there's anything in it that's going. I put a little honey in it too. I just had this like a little excess of that stuff. And without getting into detail, there's certain aspects of it that are of the coffee, the dark chocolate that have beneficial effects for, well, first of all, the chocolate should help wake me up. Chocolate, cacao, like 100% cacao is good for the heart, and coffee and cacao, dark chocolate is good for bile production. Okay, there it is. I said it. I wasn't going to say it, but I had to say it. It's it's important.
The only station that matters.
So let's get back to topic here. What was I talking about? The simple life. Is it possible? It's what this is. I mean, I guess that's what I've been talking about. I'm just living the simple life. It's a garden, welcome. I'm taking you into my kitchen today. The kitchen bar that I talk about often. You can see that it's a very simple, simple room. Country, old. It's an old house. I've got it stacked with stuff. Like that's above the girl in the back is a dartboard. And like I say, I've got that big counter that I've had built out myself, but it's an old country kitchen sink. And what you can't see is there's a gas stove in the very front next to that toilet paper roll. And the bar goes behind the bar. On the left of the bar is actually the washer and dryer. And then behind the bar is my refrigerator, which makes it good when I'm using it as a bar. And I have a shelf behind the bar where I could put bottles and stuff, which I currently don't really have any liquor bottles stacked there. Though I do have beer in the refrigerator, and I have been I've been eating well and doing, living a kind of a healthy life for the past 100 some days. Let's see. Before Christmas. So, January, February, March, I'm into April. Yeah, 4 months. Almost 4 months, coming on 4 months of basically eating a liver or gallbladder healthy type of diet, hoping that I've avoided the only thing I haven't done is taken something called bile salts, which they say, which is rumored to shrink gallstones. But I asked my pharmacist about that, and she said, well, that's more of a homeopathic thing. But she didn't say, oh, don't take that. That's a, fake or whatever. So she was non-committal on it, which made me think, well, maybe I might. It depends on how it goes. But I've avoided that because I found that there are natural things, and this show isn't going to be about this. And if it, so don't turn it off if you've discovered it. Learn something. I mean, you might have a relative that goes through this, I'm just telling you, and it'll point you to research. I'm not a medical professional, but I'm telling you what people have said to me, and, this is just, talk, right? My opinion on the thing is this. There are natural things like rosemary, like I was saying, dark chocolate, coffee, eggs, pasture, free range and pastured eggs. There's a couple other things. I don't have a list in front of me. But you can do it. I think the key is things that contain choline, which you can do research on. And again, you can ask your doctor and pharmacist too, and they'll, and see what answer they give you, But I've been going that route, and I've avoided the bile salts. But if for some reason, I in the back of my mind, I have the idea that maybe I might, if I had some extra money, I might get some. That stuff's expensive. And, so I don't really want to mess with something. Like, even though the pharmacist was non-committal, but she was not negative. If she'd have been negative, it wouldn't have been a question. But, she left that thing open in me now, where she said, well, it's a homeopathic thing. It may or may not, And so I think I would have been, I kind of wish she would have just said, oh, that you don't want to mess with that. That's no good. That could cause more damage than good. You almost rather someone say that. I wasn't, I would never expect a pharmacist to say something, that you buy somewhere is like, oh yeah, that's better than anything I can, concoct here on, and as a pharmacist. I wouldn't expect that, but I would expect sometimes for them to say, look at those cold shocks. I would expect them to say something to the effect of, don't do, no, that's quackery. But she didn't say that, so I don't know. I may at some point take it. Enough of that, all right? Okay. I was flipping around the internet, as usual, the hour or so before I go to bed, because I dropped TV 2 years ago. Got rid of it. Any kind, TV service. And usually by the hour before bedtime, I'm like really running out of things to watch. And I want to watch something. And I'm not in the mood for reading. I might be starting to get tired, so I'm not going to And so I'm in bed, got the TV, Fire TV on, which is a Amazon set-top box, which really isn't a box. It's just basically like what they call a dongle. It looks like a USB, thumb drive, really. And so I'm just flipping around various recommended and, videos that just are coming across my YouTube. And I'm seeing all of these stories about these world events and, presented in serious ways. Now, I'm completely removed from all of this, so you have to put that into perspective. I don't really I don't care. Right? So, there's something I'm thinking about doing. I don't know if I can do it. Let's see. I want to get this. Just select. Let me just see if I can do something. I have something called black box. Okay. I wonder if I can copy and paste it. Copy, paste. Take this. Now I wonder if I can. Now that I've done that, it's black. It's black box 2. Is the other one called black? Yeah, they're both called black box 2. There's no way of changing, as far as I know, there's no way of changing the name of that, I don't think. Oh, I see. Filters. Let's see. Oh, and let me see. What I wanted to do was I wanted to see if I could do a color correction on this. And if I could turn this into select color. No. Oh, yeah, we go. Yeah. Oh, but that wants to turn them all that color. Wow, that's weird. Defaults. Close. Delete. Are you sure you want to move? Yes. And I hope it's only the one black box that it removed. Yeah. I was trying to make a white box, which I was going to put a border around this morning show, this image down the bottom. There doesn't seem to be a thing under properties, or filters when you select on the title card. I'm looking at what my availability is. And it doesn't seem to have any kind of color multiply. Let's see. Image mask, blend, chroma key, scaling, scroll, sharpen, luma key, color key, color correction, apply LUT, scaling, aspect ratio. What would image mask blend be? Just out of curious to see what they give you. Stretch image, discard, alpha masks, color channel, path, color, select color. No. Okay, so much for that. Well, anyway, so I'm watching all this stuff. Sorry about that.
After he's stalked, we must get rid of him immediately.
Oh, no.
Okay. Just weird stuff. People are talking about, the thing going on overseas, which I touch on, but I basically downplay because I always bring up the idea that 40,000 Americans are dying every week, from basically preventable things, diet and lifestyle, and, a couple thousand people are dying of murder, being killed in this country, and we just don't pay attention to it. So that some of these international things, while I'm concerned about it, I'm not obsessed. I don't obsess over them. I just try to live my life. I'm dealing with a rodent in the backyard, a leak in my roof, getting together a garden, personal health issues, and all kinds of things of that nature. There's some kind of fire truck or ambulance or something about to come through if you look up at the thing. Yeah, ambulance. But in any event, and not having TV, I'm more or less removed from that. And like I say, it doesn't mean I don't care. It's just that, the media wants to focus on a specific thing. And this is an interesting, like, come, follow me on this. Come along with me, as they say. That, imagine all of the injustices and all of the people suffering in the world. There's close to 8 billion people on the planet right now. I mean, it's an estimate. It's impossible for them to, excuse me, I didn't mean to do that. It's like, I have no idea what happened.
Really funny. Really funny.
Oh, these juvenile guys laugh at. It's just a bodily function. Hiccup. Anyway. And it couldn't have come at a more unopportune or inopportune time. But anyway, that, with 8 billion people on the planet, and think of all these highly congested areas. And there's areas where there's ongoing, like, civil wars and conflicts that, the American media just doesn't cover. And if they did, you would be shocked. And you, like, wait, as much as what's going on over in Europe, Eastern Europe. And you say, oh, no, It's like, no, the media has picked the boogeyman, the Russia thing that they've been just like forever. They found the ultimate enemy. See, the ultimate enemy, because the Russians are fair-skinned people, they could be the bad guy because then they, those spewing hate at Russia can't be accused of any kind of thing other than anything else. Now, that's not to say that the current activity, what they've done, isn't an international level, criminal act, or whatever you want to call it, or an act of war, or act of whatever, invasion. Though we don't know the story, and it's like I say, everything is wrong, and or you don't know what you don't know, and everything is wrong. But that's not what I'm trying to get at here. This isn't a defense for them or a justification or whatever. No, I'm talking about the idea that there are things going on in, like, Southeast Asia. There are gulags in China, right? There was total suppression of freedom in Hong Kong. There's things going on in Africa, which is like the largest, I believe, one of the largest continents on the planet, because of the Mercator Map that we use, that we've used in order to show the world as a globe. Like, for example, a lot of people think Alaska is this giant place. It's not. Did you ever see the Mercator Map? Let me just show you that just for a second, and then I'll continue this discussion, because this is important to understand this. Because this is just to give you an insight into something that you're not aware of. Mercator projection map. All right. So let's look at images here and see if we can get a realistic find the actual size of places. It's very hard to find. I found it once. It's like they don't want you to know this, almost. So bear with me here, because when you see this, you will be quite surprised. Let me go back to here. Clever map shows true size. Okay. Yeah, here we go. Mercator misconceptions. Clever map shows true size of countries. Okay. Now, this is the way this is what you think. The light blue is what you think the countries look like. But because of the globe, and in order to show things the way they are, right, things had to be stretched. And it had to do with longitude, latitude. In other words, the Mercator Map was accurate for, navigation and certain location, people trying to locate a place, particularly, seafaring people. But take a look closely here. You'll see that the United States is basically only about roughly 2/3 of the size of what you think it is. But look at Alaska and Canada. You see, because and Greenland, Greenland's ridiculous. So everyone looks at Greenland on a globe, right? Or a map, which they still use, the Mercator Map. And they think Greenland, oh my God, this giant place. And this is even for you, Randall Carlson and Jimmy Corsetti and stuff. People that think that this large asteroid hit Greenland and caused all this, whatever. The point of the matter is, look how Greenland is in the dark blue or whatever the color's coming over your computer. That small thing in the middle of that big light blue, Greenland's the small one. Okay? Look at the European countries. They're all way, way smaller than you think they are. Look at Russia. That whole look at Russia. Russia appears to be this giant thing. That's why people go, Russia, Russia, Russia. No. China's like a lot like the United States. It's almost, different shape, but the same deal. It's about 2/3 or 3/4 the size of what it really is. But look at Canada and Alaska. Alaska is like just the size of, of maybe Washington and Oregon combined or something, a little bit of Northern California. It's not this humongous thing. And so when you see this in perspective, now let's take the United States and put it over the African continent. See, because where Africa occurs, when you get down to the equatorial region, you have more accuracy. So let's take the United States, put it inside of Africa. Let's throw India in there, which has 1 billion people, and China, right? And then all the European countries. Look at Norway, Sweden, and Denmark. Look how tiny they are. You could probably fit China, the U.S., right? Greenland could probably take the place of South Africa, right? Do you understand? And this is when I say everything you know is wrong. This is the kind of stuff I'm trying to get across to people, right? Or you don't know what you don't know. They don't really teach this in school. You must say, well, I learned that. Yeah, you might have, but, most people didn't, right? The Mercator Map, right? And so Russia isn't this ginormous place. It's, and half of it or 2/3 of it, Siberia, and it's frozen, tundra, And the same with a lot of the Northern European. Canada is not nearly as big as people think it is. But what is real and what is really big and the largest continent, so to speak, collection of countries, which is Africa. People even forget about that. There's been so much pressure on Africa uniting, right? Like a united Africa, like a United States, right? But imagine what's going on. Africa, is way, way bigger than the U.S. And, same with South America. So imagine what's going on in Africa. And there's a lot going on in Africa. But the US news media just doesn't really cover it. From time to time they cover some issue that, there are thousands of people being killed. There are civil wars and all kinds of things going on in Africa all the time. Southeast Asia is out of control, right? India and Pakistan have had like an ongoing hatred, for one another politically, for ages. I'm pouring coffee, like I was trying to describe earlier, when you see me do that. I'm down to my last full cup. It's an interesting taste. It's a dark chocolate coffee, 100% Colombian coffee with almost 100% cacao, a little bit of pure vanilla extract, and a dash of honey. Put into the coffee while it was in the filter, so that the hot water comes through filters and what comes out. And then I could throw away the filter, and there's no mess in my coffee machine or in my coffee decanter or whatever you want to say. Other than the stain of it from being heated. Costs less than $10 at Walmart. It's like this thing I heat my coffee on, coffee cup heater. Like $9.99. So when I say I don't pay attention to this thing and I don't take it, I'm not like, all these people talk about World War III and all this kind of stuff. Apparently there are, in my perusing YouTube, that's how I started this, I was noticing all these people talking as if it like the end of the world in their minds. In this one place, and this Russia, right? And Ukraine, a country which most people don't even know anything about. Biden knows much about it. He's been the point man on Ukraine since the Obama administration. He was vice president. Obama was in the White House the other day. Back in the White House. Called him vice president. Said, oh, that was a slip up. What's he doing there? Right? What is he doing there? So, a lot of people call this the second Biden administration or Obama administration. But anyway, that's socioeconomic geopolitics. So I don't, that's how the world is run. I'm aware of that. See, I'm the guy who's told you that. And what I'm trying to get at is that, it is the socioeconomic geopolitics. In other words, it is the people who have money who rule this world for the reasons of their own design. Whether it's big pharma for, or the military contractors or the central bankers, right? Big ag, big tech. That's how the world is, that's who rules the world, right? That's who attends the World Economic Forum every year at Davos. Right? And who outlines all of these plans and which come to fruition. Right? But I'm amazed how many people how the media has this ability. And when I say media, and I'll repeat this again, I mean everything social media. Because social media, there's a big stink about Elon Musk, getting on the board of Twitter now. As if that's going to mean something. It's Twitter. It's an app. For most people, it's an app on a phone. So what? They make it out to be a big thing. Right? Oh, it's the public square. My Echo Dot in the other room just decided to talk. They do that. Some people say that's like they're haunted or weird thing. I don't know what it said. It said it looked up something. But I never said its name. So it shouldn't have done that. Isn't that weird? I hear people have kind of crazy stories about that. And if I ask it what it said, it will say, I don't know what you're talking about. You're right. That's where it gets scary. Because it's like, well, who are you answering to? Who are you talking to? Right? If I was a kind of a freaky person. But I live alone with a black cat, so it's like I don't scare that easily. Anyway, so it took me off guard though, my trend of thought. But what I'm saying is social media, Twitter, I was talking about the insignificance of social media and Twitter and the thing how these things are just apps. It's like Facebook is practically over. Facebook literally is grandma and, cousin, whatever, cousin Nancy or whatever showing you pictures of their kids and their vacation. Here's our summer vacation, or here's, look how big Junior has gotten, or look at here his first walk, across the room. I mean, that's Facebook. That's why Zuckerberg's moved to Metaverse, because he's seen that. They've gathered all the information. It's plateaued as far as collecting demographic information for, predictive behavior. So now they want to take people into the metaverse and they want to somehow utilize that, which is meaningless because with the chips they have for AI now, I question the metaverse, as he has described it. First of all, I think VR is something that's going to probably disappear. All right. I mean, there's some interesting things I'll get into here. Meaning because of the headset. So that we're more likely to see AR, which will be basically this, a pair of, like, these are just reading glasses, by the way. I don't wear glasses in the daytime. And so chances are you'll deal with augmented reality. These chips, they've shrunken these chips, and the capability of these chips is incredible. A lot of this is powered now by the cloud, just like that Echo Dot was. When the internet goes out, if you ask it a question, it says I cannot, I don't know the answer to that. I'm not connected to the internet. The internet connection is not, active or something. And so as you have AI, current version of AI, GPT-3, I'm predicting it will be up to GPT-4 ahead of schedule next year. This new chip, this new NVIDIA chip comes out in the third quarter of this year, I believe. And I know this is over some people's heads, but, you should know this. This is much more important than these civil wars and these proxy wars and things going on. Is what I'm trying to tell you is, A, you saw the Mercator Map. So the world isn't the way you see it, you picture it to begin with. All right? These countries, the countries you think that are the most important and the biggest countries or the biggest land masses aren't as big as you think they are. All right, so that's number one. Your perception of the world you live on is actually wrong. So, in effect, everything you know is wrong. And what I'm getting into now is you don't know what you don't know. And that's why I put these on shirts. And, of course, yesterday I was pressing then what? Like it was on that hoodie, which is you can get on a shirt or whatever. And the reason I've approached these, and I'm just an affiliate with these companies. I don't own them. I design these shirts, these designs and things, and I think people should wear them to help get this word out, kind of. But what I'm saying is that much of these things, the media focuses you on a specific thing, and suddenly it draws everyone's attention to it, as if it's the most important, scariest thing in the world. But there's this world, like I say, Africa, which dwarfs Europe, the U.S., and even China. Like you could fit the U.S., China, and Europe into Africa, right? And maybe even squeeze the Soviet Union in there, part of it. There's definitely Greenland, which looks like it's like this humongous place. It's not. And Canada is like half the size of what people think it is. So imagine that just looking at that, how everything you know is wrong. And then think about and then think of Twitter. And you have to be able to stand back and really look objectively at the world and life and reality and say, Twitter, it's a bunch of people, right, arguing on a thing, and you got a guy, one of the richest men in the world, Elon Musk, and people worried about it. The point of the matter is, who cares if Twitter censors you? Right? Who cares? See, there was a time, when people just lived the simple life, just lived their life and worried about the quality of their life. And that's what I'm trying to say on this show, right? Is the simple life possible? And so we have this an ever-increasing complexity with an underpinning of socioeconomic geopolitics. Is it possible to be happy, free, and have a good quality of life without all of the existential noise? And to me, that's what the internet has become. These social media sites have become noise. These are just, they're gig. It's the gig economy. Right? Joe Rogan is the more popular than gets more views than cable channels and networks combined or something. Yeah, lucky him. He's got a gig. He found a gig. It's the gig economy. He could sit his studio in his house or next to his house or wherever it is. I don't know. I know he moved to Texas. Right? And set up a studio and do this thing and spend a couple hours a day, and then the rest of the day is his, and he's making him, I don't know, he's a millionaire, put it that way. It's a gig economy. And there's other YouTube millionaires. He's a Spotify millionaire, but he became a millionaire using YouTube. And you've got all these people with blue checks next to their photo on Twitter, like they're supposedly influencers or somebody. But there's people on there that may have written one book, right, or something. I wrote 10 books. They never put a check besides my name, right? How come? Right? I got 50 songs, right? All kinds of stuff. I never got a blue check. Of course, I never got kicked off Twitter, and I basically used to call it everything like it was. I never, so so that's another part of shadow banning. I guess if they have you at a point of shadow banning you, that they don't care what you say. They're not, in other words, that's the true example. There were some times where I wanted to get kicked. I tried to get kicked off of Twitter at one point. And I had made such outrageous criticisms of, the status quo and, the things you just weren't supposed to speak about, that I figured, okay, that'll do it. And it didn't, because what they do is they just make you kind of semi-invisible. So unless someone actually knows you and has you, is following you specifically, they don't care. There's no way anyone else is going to discover that comment you made or whatever. And that's the same with YouTube. I'm broadcasting live. It's 6 o'clock in the morning. There's 2 billion active users on YouTube, which would mean that, on this spinning globe, that at least 1 billion of them are probably, these are active users, not, there's 1 billion people that are potentially have access to this. And you would think, and not a single person has even curiously, right, out of curiosity, clicked on this? No, because I'm not listed, right? You found this because I posted a link to it on a social media site after the fact, because there's nobody watching live. They don't have me listed on the live site unless you're one of the 30 people who subscribed, which are like people I know or something. And they don't even watch. They don't even watch anymore. They get tired of it. People don't want to hear the truth. It's not sensational. People don't want to know that the things that they believe are not true, right? They don't want some guy telling them they don't know what they don't know and everything you know is wrong. Or when they say, "Oh, there's going to be World War III if he's going to bomb." What his plan is, he's going to use the same thing he used in Chechnya. He's surrounding Kiev, and he's 15 miles out. He has 15-mile capacity with his, these basically the equivalent of like mortar fire things. He's surrounding the city, and what he's going to do is he's going to hit these, start bombarding the city of Kiev with bombs and level it to the ground. So they haven't retreated. The Ukrainian army hasn't pushed him back. This is like Putin's old time proven way of taking a city. And so it's a matter of whether or not the people in Kiev are smart enough to basically surrender. Because what's about to happen is hell on earth. He's going to unleash hell on earth. And all that's going to be left is rubble. And at that point, without, Kiev, there is no Ukraine. Millions of people have already escaped the country. You see? There won't be World War III. Okay? There's not going to be World War III. Ukraine's not a member of NATO. All right? It's not a member of the EU. You see? What are they going to do? Accuse the guy of war crimes? The U.S. has been accused of war crimes. See, I'm being frozen right now because I'm mentioning this. You're not allowed to mention this stuff. Hang in there, folks. Hopefully they won't cut me out. But there's some game being played. YouTube does this. Okay. You may not have noticed that in the replay. And I didn't want to talk about that kind of stuff anyway. What I'm talking about is the quality of life. So the heck with that. All right? Because this broadcast to me is more important, what I have to say, than socioeconomic geopolitics. Because where you live, how you live your life is the most important thing. What I'm trying to get across is that there are countries like Africa that are way bigger than the U.S., than China, than Russia. All right? And in some instances, you can almost squeeze the whole three of us, right? 3 of our countries into Africa. That's how big it is. All right? And we pay no mind to that continent and all those countries there and the hardships and civil wars and injustices that are going on there. There's 1 billion people living in India, all right, squeezed into that country, which really isn't that big. All right? If you look at the actual, how the Mercator Map distorts the world, the view of the world, and countries, continents. And these farmers are committing suicide, and they're living subhuman lives in many places. There's 1 billion people. Like I say, there's concentration camps in communist China. Freedom has been stomped out in Hong Kong. It's just a matter of time before the communist Chinese take over Taiwan. Right? South America has all sorts of things problems. The U.S. is trying to make an oil deal with Venezuela, and Venezuela is basically, people are starving to death and have starved to death and are being totally oppressed by a dictatorship, there. It's insanity. Right? Up our neighbors to the north, Canada, which is a much tinier country than people think it is. It's a small country. Basically, recently just abolished the rule of law. I mean, it just became tyrannical. Right? Totalitarian state in many ways. I mean, look at the U.S. So the idea is that all these existential things to your house, to your life, that's why I'm showing my kitchen here, my simple country kitchen. Some people would be like, want to keep up some, image or something. I got no pretensions. I'm broke, man. My house is, I told you, I own this house. I mean, I own I'm paying a mortgage, but I'm like over half, it's half paid off. But it's only $200 a month. And that includes the taxes and insurance. Okay? I'm broke. I live at the poverty line. I don't file taxes because I don't have to. I get a letter from the IRS saying, if you make, your income is below the poverty line, you don't need to file taxes. I've showed that letter on there. That's why I like staying that way, in effect. My bank balance yesterday was minus $2 and change. Minus. You understand? I got a leaky roof. I got a rodent from the backyard because I got a crazy neighbor who's a hoarder. All right? A cat that's been sick who's hopefully on the mend. I've had bugs in my kitchen. No. And that's my kitchen. It's a simple kitchen. They want to do remove my gallbladder. I don't, so I'm eating a certain kind of diet and all kinds of stuff, restricting myself, so that I could not have to deal with that. I don't want anybody digging around me anymore because I already had a cancer operation. I already had kidney operations. I have a garden in the backyard. I want to grow my vegetables. I want to sit in the sun. I want to listen to music. I want to breathe fresh air. I want to just be free. I want to be happy. I don't want I want to feed my birds that come to the backyard, and I don't want some rodent coming in from the next door neighbor trying to eat their bird seed. The simple life. Right? I've been across the Atlantic Ocean. I've been across the Pacific Ocean. I've been multiple times. I've rotated around this planet. I've been in most states. I've held jobs in all the major most of the major cities, the major markets, New York City, Los Angeles, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, right? I've traveled, not vacationed. I've lived and worked. I've done stuff. I feel I've made a difference, in quotation marks, that the fact that I lived. I did things that I worked on, things that I felt were important and that had the potential to improve people's lives. Not some idiotic thing. Didn't put paper pushing or tweeting. An app on a little thing you hold in your hand, arguing with people, some of whom are probably just AI chatbots. which the technology is getting so good, eventually you won't even know the difference. Right? This new NVIDIA chip. In my book Codex, if you read that, I talk about it. People don't buy my books. Nobody buys my books. Nobody buys these shirts. They don't get it. I don't understand how you don't get it. That's the thing that gets me. But I bet you glued to the TV. I bet you watch TV, and I bet you know names of places in Ukraine, but you never even knew where Ukraine really was. You kind of had a general idea. Very few people understand world geography. When I was a kid, they used to have this thing, this puzzle thing in the floor when you'd go to the dentist or something, and it was like a map of the United States, and it was like the shapes of the states. You probably know what I'm talking about. And you would put it together, right? Most people probably today couldn't even do that. They probably don't know where Idaho is as opposed to South Dakota or something, or where's Arkansas and Kentucky. You see what I mean? Let alone where Ukraine is. Oh, but now they know. And so the media puts this focus on it, and these people, these YouTube millionaires, so to speak, they copy what the mainstream media and tweets or has a news clip of, and then they sit around and they all talk about it, and it becomes what we call news in this world. News. It's not news. News is we're about to get hit by an asteroid. That's news, right? News is the weather, right? That's the news. There's going to be a storm. It's going to rain all day, right? And so the idea, that question I pose to you is it possible to live a simple life? And not as if the simple life is some, Beverly Hillbillies or Green Acres, if anyone remembers those shows, or some country bumpkin type of idea. No, I mean, just live your life. Not be so concerned about existential things. Let the Europeans deal with the European issues, It's like the reason that they have their focus on that is because they're trying to take your focus away from something else. They don't want you focusing on inflation. They don't want you focusing, in other words, it's like I've said before, it's like magic. It's the sleight of hand. They want you focused on this hand, so you don't see that they're doing something with the other. Or they want you focused on the pretty blonde's face, so that you're not seeing that, there's something else they're doing, she's distracting you away from what the trick is they're about to perform on stage, and you're going to go, oh, wow, how'd they do that? Well, they did it because they just focused your attention away from, took your eye off the ball. The moment you took your eye off the ball is when they pulled one on you. That's what socioeconomic geopolitics, that's how it works. That's how they get away with it. The world is run by insane people for insane reasons, as Lenin said. John Lennon, that is. And it is possible to live the simple life. All you have to do is just decide to do it. I did. I was paying a ridiculous amount of money renting an apartment, not too far from here. I mean, far enough. The next city, couple cities over. And I said, that's unsustainable. And I saw this inflation coming. I saw that the stock market was just, that was all these bubbles. the world was in turmoil. The news media had become basically, tabloid journalism. And that people were becoming, functionally illiterate. And that sounds like an insult, but it's the truth. And it's a word that appeared on the Department of Education site. People can't even read when they graduate schools. They don't know these trucks going up there in the pictures there, that they're carrying coal to electric plants, and your electric car is running on coal. And if it's not running on coal, if you don't live in an area like this, and there's a lot of areas where they have coal-fired electric plants, by the way. If you're not living in an area like this, your electric car is running on natural gas. And that natural gas may well have been fracked. Remember how people used to be against fracking? Right. And so these are the things that they are trying to do the sleight of hand with you over, right? They're the modern day deceptions, right? They're distractions away from, keep your eye off of that. They don't want you to know that, the whole idea of windmills didn't work. And windmills are a thing of the past now. But there's all these things all over the place that littered and ruined all our landscapes. What happened to all the environmentalists? Why didn't they protest those windmills being put there? They didn't lower people's electricity, and they didn't contribute to the grid. You see? So now we're stuck with those things that nobody's going to take down. If you get rid of fossil fuels, it would take cranes and all kinds of heavy equipment to remove them. And there's no way, or fix them, or repair them, or refurbish them. Well, but they've outlawed that. By 2030, we're not even supposed to be able to use fossil fuels. Right? I don't know how they're even going to have fire trucks or ambulances like we saw before. How are you going to fix a highway? What about the grid system, the electric? People really, do you understand what's going on here? When they say great reset, they're pushing a button. We're going back to the Stone Age. This is neo-feudalism. You think I'm lying? You think I'm making this stuff up? Right? Do you know how many places have power outages just when they get a snowstorm or an ice storm or a windstorm? We shouldn't have a grid system that's that susceptible when we have a society that's completely dependent upon electricity. What are you going to do when you have no internet and it's gone forever? Right? People hugging their little cell phone, smartphone, like it's, oh, my little precious. Well, what are you going to do when your little precious is nothing? Right? Are you going to have a life? What are you going to do when you're sick? Or someone is really sick. What are you going to do? How are you going to deal with that? Are you going to be worried about tweeting while you're by their hospital, bed, or while they're dying? Is that going to be the most important thing to you? Oh, excuse me, I got to tweet this thing out. I have to take this call. Lee, I got to go out in the hallway. We're talking food shortages, supply chain issues, runaway inflation, prices doubling. Do you know who's going to hurt the most? Not people like me who've learned to live at the poverty level and grow their own food. Yeah, I got hard times. Anybody else there wants to donate $500 today to my PayPal? The PayPal's right below. I would appreciate it. You'd save my life because I really need it badly. All right? But it's just $500. To most people, that's nothing, right? But you know who's going to really hurt? Are the people who are the upper middle class. The people who are paying 2, 3, 4 times for everything. And then they've got their investment, their retirement in these 401ks or these various plans, financial, advisors who've got their money invested in all different ways, mostly through stocks and stuff that they don't even have a say in. So when the system crashes after the 2022 elections, probably, you got some time. They're propping this thing up. They're doing everything they can. The Federal Reserve has this idea that they're thinking, hey, man, we could just keep printing money, but we're not going to print money anymore. Let's forget about creating actual physical bills. We can just do this through digital. Let's take the crypto currency idea. Let's use the blockchain, right? Let's take the serial numbers from the dollar bills, but let's not bother printing the dollar bills anymore. Let's just come up with our own little method and let people's transactions be, tracked through those serial numbers, right? And we could just transfer this money to banks overnight, and it doesn't matter. We'll just create money inevitably, and who cares that the country's $30 trillion in debt? We could just it could be $100 trillion. That's their belief. But the problem is that it doesn't work that way in reality. You see, that we have the concept of capitalism, which they're using. It's crony capitalism. It's not really free market capitalism. What the system that they have. It's kind of a weird. It's like the communists have adopted certain capitalistic ideas because to compete in a global market. And no melted chocolate or anything in the bottom of that. It's interesting. It completely got infused. So what will happen is the stock market will eventually crash. People will eventually get bored with Twitter. See, this is not the time to buy into Twitter. This is the time to get out of Twitter. Why waste your time on Twitter? It's like the same with YouTube. I'm probably not going to be doing these things. What's going to happen is when the weather changes, I'll probably do these things occasionally, and I'll probably do some garden videos, which if you go to my ROCKFLUX.com channel, and click on YouTube, you'll find garden videos. I'm on Rumble too, by the way, a day late. One of these days, I'm going to transfer more of these videos to 3Speak, it's called, which puts me on Podcast 2.0, and so that these will be podcasts for people they'll listen. It's easier for them to access them as podcasts. And I'll have these podcasts. I believe I could. I don't know if Apple will accept some of these things, but I just haven't had the time to go about that process. See, the process it's rather involved. I have to, by doing live videos, these are recorded live, and then the live video then exists on YouTube server. Now, what Rumble does is I have a setup with Rumble. Rumble automatically downloads it and then puts it on there. So there's a copy of it on Rumble that despite what YouTube does, it'll still exist. But I have to download, if I want to turn this into a podcast, I have to physically download this hour and a half, 2-hour, vlog, podcast, webcast, video, the audio of it. And then I have to take that and place, and then upload that, convert it as an audio file and upload that to another place so it can be made available and have an RSS feed and all that jazz. So it's not as simple as you think. It's actually a whole process. The downloading takes time. And then then uploading each individual video would require, having a title card and a description, And so imagine doing that, a guy like me who's coming up on maybe 500 near consecutive videos, right? So even if I wanted to take the top 100, right, or the top 50, say, because there's no way, I'm not even going to dream of that. But the top 50 or top 25 and put them up as podcasts, because it would still be a wealth of information, even 25, 2-hour, you're talking 50 hours of listening, right? But the top 50 would be like 100 hours of listening. And I could probably go through and do that, but it would take weeks, if not months, because wouldn't be, I'm not going to do it as a full-time job. Remember, I'm not monetized from this, and I wouldn't be monetized. These would be podcasts after the fact. I've said all I've had to say mainly. There are new things I interject every now and then into these things. I mean, today's show, there's some interesting stuff. I've shown the Mercator projection before, but, I think it's more apropos right now with the way things are going in the world. Puts things in perspective, and it ties into this idea of talking about, Musk and Twitter. So, but then there's Getter, and I'm on Getter. This is on Getter. There might be somebody on Getter who watches this, right? Like I say, I'm on Rumble, and there's probably somebody on Rumble that may or may not watch this. Sometimes my videos only get a couple views, but sometimes on Rumble they get views. Which adds to the aggregate, the overall views. And then I do have some on this podcast, site, which aren't not many, a handful, but that get views. So you add the numbers up, right? And whatever game is being played, by YouTube, I think there's probably, more people see this than they pretend. But it's still, in the grand scheme of things, a very small amount of people are exposed to my work. But like I say, it's the truth at 30 frames per second. Brutal honesty, firsthand experience, throughout these shows, anecdotes of things I've done, lived, life experiences in different cities, certain vocations, jobs I've had, different, my travels, things I've learned, right? Lessons I've learned, knowledge I've imparted. And then all these things that I've tested, like this great solar stuff things and things I've put out here for you to help you get through this life and live a simple life. And I tell you, I'm honest, how many people would admit that they live, I live on the outskirts of an old industrial town. Okay? I'm not in a slum, I'm not in a ghetto, but I'm on the outskirts of an old industrial town in a neighborhood that's like, seen better days. Right? I have a cheap mortgage, right? I've got a leaky roof, and I'm dealing with a rodent problem in the backyard because they've been messing with the sewage system, and the woman next door is a hoarder, and that combination led to me having to deal with that. How many people would admit that kind of thing? They wouldn't. But I do. And when I solve these problems, I show you what I did. I showed you how I solved one of the leaking problems that was successful in my roof, my attic. And I'm going to take more of those boards off that I took off to expose the raw roof. And I'm going to use those out in my backyard, excuse me, because the price of lumber is so expensive. In fact, I can't do it this week, but that's why I'm hoping for a couple good days next week. And I'm going to drag those boards down from the attic, and I'm going to board up all along the neighbor's fence line. And I'm going to paint them the same color of the fence, which is like brown, crappy brown that was painted when I came here. And hopefully not pay a couple of bills and have enough money to get a couple bags of quick-set concrete. And any place where this rodent that comes over from her yard decides to pop through or drill underneath the ground or attempts to, I'll fill it with a combination of, excuse me, quick-set concrete, rocks, and pieces of metal, scrap and stuff, something it can't chew through. And I'll just keep doing this. It'll be like whack-a-mole. But eventually I'll have the whole... I actually have a good portion of that fence cemented down deeper than the thing, wants to dig. I'll put steel wool in there with it and stuff. There's certain techniques that you can do that they can't, because, rats can, they gnaw, those teeth, they can gnaw through a lot of stuff. But there's certain things that they, like steel wool and little particulate things. I'll solve the problem. And I'll grow a garden, and it'll be plentiful, and I'll have some beautiful sunny days. And I'll hopefully beat this gallbladder thing, and I'll reopen that bar that you can see there, that brown wooden top I made. Now it's filled with just like little bottles of vitamins and some bottled water and a napkin stand. And I'll turn that back into a place. I've got a great set of Bose speakers in there, right? And some really funky lighting. You're not really seeing the bar side of that room. And I'll have some enjoyable times there. And I'll have some enjoyable times in my backyard. The simple life. It's possible, and you can do it. It doesn't matter. You can still feel for people. But my advice to you is forget about the political candidates and the cult of personality and these issues du jour that the media fixates and focuses your attention on. All right? Because there are far worse things happening right here in this country and in other countries like Africa, South America, and Southeast Asia. Like I say, if there's 40,000 people dying because of processed foods or things the FDA is allowed to still be on the shelves, and other government agencies, carcinogens, things with like ridiculous amount of carbs and sugars in them that are just causing type 2 diabetes, obesity, heart disease, right? Lawsuits you see on TV all the time. I point up there because I have a TV on the wall up there. It's not connected. Well, it's connected to one of those 1995 over-the-air thing. So if I ever had to watch, there's a local NBC affiliate, not my favorite. And of course, none of the stations were ever my favorites. But if I ever had to watch TV out of some curiosity or there was some thing going on, it's like, hey, what's going on? I could actually pick up that station over the air on that TV, along with something called MeTV. And I don't do it anymore because I don't spend much time down here. But I mean, you could watch the old reruns of like the Rockford Files and stuff, weird stuff like that on some of the sideband channels. So I always look up. That's where the TV used to be. I used to spend a lot of time down here creating things on these computers, And so I would have stuff on in the background. I used to watch that show Supernatural when I had cable. You're right. You know, Sam and Dean. Remember that show? Did you watch that show? Anyway. Looks like the sun's coming out. You could see that the ground is shiny, which means that, and there's somebody over there. Well, I don't think you can see it, but I saw an umbrella. So it's raining. And I got to get up on the third floor and
Good morning.
empty the buckets. So visit my site, ROCKFLUX.com, or below this video, there's a PayPal link. If someone wants to donate some money, I'd appreciate it. Help me get through my hard times. Or you could just get one of my books, buy the book in print, go to Great Solar Stuff, get yourself one of those things. I've tested all that stuff, so it all works. And it'll get you through a power outage. The grid's going down one way or another. Or just get one of these shirts, hoodies, hats, all kinds of stuff. And with some great sayings on them that can make a difference for somebody. Somebody sees you walking around with something, everything you know is wrong, or you don't know what you don't know, or then what. Whether they ask you a question or not, it's going to open up a question in their brain. And that's a very non-confrontative way of, affecting positive change, I think. That's the best I came up with, right? I don't believe in protesting. I think it's an exercise in futility. Good luck. Try to live the simple life. Be healthy. Take care. Ignore the media. Just ignore them. Cheers.